Hi everyone! Today I'm going to go over how to translate Sumerian text. The same basic principle applies for translating, as far as I'm aware, all ancient languages. There are some variations because of the oddities of cuneiform, but I'll point those out as we go. So to start with, you find a photograph of your object or a drawing of it. There are, for cuneiform texts, a lot of times you translate from something called a line drawing, which is where someone has just very carefully and accurately copied out the appearance of the tablet, including like the shape of it and then any markings on it and obviously all of the cuneiform signs. So you might be translating from a line drawing, you might have a good photograph, which is what I'm using at the moment, or if you're really, really lucky, you might have the actual object itself. So I'm going to kind of talk to you as I do this. I have my iPad. I'm going to record what I am doing so that you can see how it works, which may or may not be interesting to you, I'm not entirely sure, but let's give it a go. So I'm translating a foundation inscription on a foundation tablet by a king called Šulgi, who is a king of the Ur dynasty. So we're just going to get started. So line 1 is Dingir, Nimin, Tab, Ba. Line 2, Nin, Ah, Ni. And what I'm doing at the moment is called transliteration. It's where you look at the cuneiform you have and you just write out the sign values that you're using in the Latin alphabet. Transliteration isn't a necessary step in languages like Hebrew, where there's really only one way to read a character. In Hebrew, a bait is a bait is a bait. It's not suddenly going to turn into a gimel. With cuneiform, there are multiple different readings for a single sign. Because of this, it's necessary to write out the values you're using to make sure you have the right value, because it can drastically alter the meaning of a word or sentence if you pick the wrong one. So for example, Dingir, this one up here, can also be read as An, the name of a god, or as like the word for God. In this particular context, it is called a determinative. It's letting the reader know that what follows is a divine name. So you don't write the whole sign out, you just write it in superscript to note that you know it's there, and so that you know that this word is the name of a goddess. Sometimes it's necessary to try a whole bunch of different sign values until you find the right one, which can make things rather time-consuming. So let's do a little bit more. Line 3, Šulgi. Line 4, Nita, Kalaga. Line 5. Now, as happens regularly, you're going to come across a sign whose value you don't know. And when that happens, it's time to break out something called a sign list, which, very excitingly, is a published list of all cuneiform signs. So what you do is you find your sign list, and you start basically scrolling through until you find a match for the sign you're looking for. Now, as you can see, there are many different variants of a single sign. That's because cuneiform was in use for such a very long time. The signs change its appearance quite drastically from the beginning to the end, so you have to know what particular script you're looking at. This is a really easy sign. It's the Lugal sign, but I thought it would be a good one to show you. So it's 221A on my screen here, and if you look, it is a pretty good match for the very first sign that we have. So we know now that that is a Lugal sign. Lugal means king. So that's Lugal, Orem, 2, Ki, Ma, 6, and you see we have the Lugal sign repeated again. Lugal, Ki, N, Gi, Ki, Ori, Ka, oop, Ka, 4, 7, A, 2, R, Ni, and line 8 finally is Mu, Na, 2, 3. So now we have our transliteration, which is very exciting. And a lot neater than my transliterations normally are, because foundation tablets are not very difficult. They have a set range of topics, so I know really what it's likely to say, so I don't need to test out 8 different sign values until I find the right one. So what do we do now? Well, we don't do that for starters. We normalize. So I'm just going to make this text a little smaller so I can actually do something. So, line 1. Helps if I select the pencil tool. Line 1. Oh, I should tell you what normalization is first, shouldn't I? That would be good. So, in the normalization step, you write out cleanly the sign values you're using and any grammatical features that aren't inherently obvious in the text. Sumerian tends to leave a lot of stuff out, so it helps other people when they're reading your translations if you add in the grammatical features that you believe are implied by the text but not necessarily shown. This is slightly different with Akkadian because it's a fully declined language. They write out all the verbal verbal declensions. Sumerian kind of does that, but it's a little weird. Josh is gonna go into that. He's going to do a Sumerian language course on our YouTube. So if you have any interest in learning Sumerian grammar, stay tuned. He's going to walk you through it. So for normalization, you just write out your sign values, the words you're reading, and any additional grammatical features. So, Nimin Taba, that's the god name. 2. Nin Ani. So you see here, Ani is 2 signs. It's run together here because while it's 2 signs, it's actually 1 grammatical feature. This is a possessive suffix, the 3rd person possessive suffix. This, why is that not going anywhere? This means his lady. So it's not written as 2 anymore. 3, Šulgi, 4, Nita, Kalaga, 5, Lugal, Orem, Ki, Ak. Now that's interesting as well, and again Josh is going to go through it, but this is why you normalize things. So this here is written here as Orem to Kima. The ki is another determinative, like the dingir sign. it shows a place name. So that's not part of the word. So you write that in superscript here. And then the M here is an auslaut from right there, so you can ignore that. And the A right on the end is the genitive construction, which in Sumerian is an arc. So when you normalize, you write the whole thing out. You write the A and the K. So Lugal, Orim, Ki, Ak. Line 6. Lugal, Ki, N, Ki, Ki, Ori, Ak, E. So the Ki, Ori, Ak, E is from here. Ki, Ori, Kefor. So the K is the genitive, just like it was here. And then the E is the ergative marker. In Sumerian, that marks the agent of a verb, the person doing something. So, there we go. So line 7. A, Ani. There is the possessive suffix again. 8. Mu. Na. Do. This is the verbal chain. In Sumerian, it always goes right at the end. So, that is our normalized text. It's very exciting. And it's exciting because now we get to translate it. So, I am going to delete this stuff here. Delete this stuff here so that we have room. So, this is just a personal preference, but I like to do a very literal translation first to make sure that I have a good grasp of what is going on linguistically. And then when I've done that, I render it in good English. So, very literal first. It's going to look a little weird. 1. Nimin. Taba. 2. His lady. Oh, that's not how you spell lady. His lady. 3. Šulgi. 4. Mighty hero. 5. King of all. 6. King of Sumer and Akkad. 7. Her temple. There. We're going to go with house. Her house. So this word here means literally house. The house of the god is a temple, so you may see it translated both ways. 8. He built for her. So that is very, very literal. We're going to get rid of some of this stuff because we don't need it anymore. So that is our literal translation, and now we get to write it in good English so it makes sense. So I'm going to take 4 Nimin Taba, his lady, Šulgi, mighty hero, king of all, king of Sumer and Akkad. He built her house. It's still a little clunky, but you get kind of the feeling for what's going on. This is a foundation inscription for a temple probably of Nimintaba, and it records that King Šulgi, the king of Ur, the king of Sumer and Akkad, built the temple for the goddess. So that's how you translate in Sumerian. It's very exciting. So what is not a translation? I've come across the preconception before that when you translate a text, an ancient text, really all you're doing is looking at all of the other English translations that have come before you and making a judgment about what words are best. So collecting together all editions of a text and saying, well, I don't like this translation, I like this one, and I like this part of a third translation, so I'm just going to mush them together and make one like Franken text from it. People think this happens with the Bible, actually. They think that what you're doing is reworking all the existing translations, gathering together all the English Bibles and saying, these are the words we have, this is how it should be rendered in modern English, and then kind of mushing it together. That's really not what happens when people make a new translation or a new edition of an ancient text. What they do is go back to the original source. They go back to the actual foundation tablet, or they go back to the ancient scrolls, and they sit down and they translate through it from scratch. And the reason you get new translations and differing languages is because our understanding of ancient languages is improving all the time. Every time a new text is translated, every time we discover new tablets, we gain more knowledge of how language works and how Akkadian, Sumerian, Hebrew, Phoenician, all of this stuff, how it works. So our knowledge is updated, which means it's necessary to periodically go back and update old translations. So you get exciting new translations going on. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's been kind of followable. I hope it's made sense. And again, if you're interested at all in learning Sumerian, Josh is very excited to teach you. So keep watching and we'll get one of those up soon. Thanks.